Hello and welcome. So today we are going to discuss a very important standard, which is standard number 1130. This is regarding impairment to independence or objectivity. I would advise all the internal auditors to spend time and understand this standard very well, because this will clarify you about the boundaries of internal audit and whatever you are doing, you need to understand the scope of your limitations. I would also advise the audit committee members or the people who are working as an expert with the audit committee to look after the affairs of internal audit to understand this area, because this is a very important area and need to focus and understand on how the impairment is happening and how it has to be managed. The chief audit executive needs to know that how to determine to whom to disclose the impairment, what situations may result in impairment to organizational independence and individual objectivity, what should be the disclosure approach of chief audit executive for impairment. So while reviewing this standard, we will try to get responses to all these questions. As per standard 1130 in impairment to independence or objectivity, it requires that if independence or objectivity is impaired in fact or appearance, the details of the impairment must be disclosed to the appropriate parties. The nature of disclosure will depend upon the impairment. As per interpretation of the standard, the impairment to the organizational independence and individual objectivity may include, but is not limited to, the personal conflict of interest. It can be a scope limitation or a restriction on access to records, properties, personnel, any location, or it can be a resource limitation like such as funding. The determination of appropriate parties to which disclosure needs to be made about the impairment is dependent upon the expectations of the internal audit activities and chief audit executive's responsibilities as per the internal audit charter or as per the discussions with the board on the expectations from the internal audit function, as well as on the nature of the impairment. Now we will discuss some assurance and consulting standards which will be discussing about the impairment over the independence or objectivity. So the standard 1130A1, which is for assurance, the internal auditors must refrain from assessing specific operations for which they were previously responsible. Objectivity is presumed to be impaired if an internal auditor provides assurance services for an activity for which the internal auditor had responsibility within the previous year. As per standard 1130A2, the assurance engagements for functions over which the chief audit executive has responsibility must be overseen by a party outside the internal audit activity. This is a safeguard needs to be taken to avoid the objectivity issues. 1130A3, requires that the internal audit activity may provide assurance services where it had previously performed the consulting services, provided the nature of consulting did not impair objectivity, and provided the individual objectivity is managed when assigning resources to the engagement. As far as consulting standard is concerned, 1130C1 it requires that the internal auditor may provide consulting services relating to operations for which they had previous responsibilities. So, it will not impact from that angle, as well as 1130C2. It requires that if internal auditor have a potential impairment to independence or objectivity relating to proposed consulting engagement or consulting services, that then disclosure must be made add to the engagement client that prior to accepting that engagement that we might have these issues. So, as per his implementation guide, the standard requires the chief audit executive to disclose real or perceived impairments to independence or objectivity. Therefore, the chief audit executive must have a clear understanding of independence and objectivity requirements as described in the Code of Ethics and standards 1100, which is about independence and objectivity, 1110, which is on the organizational independence, 1111, which is direct interaction with the board, 1112, which is chief audit executive roles beyond internal auditing, and 1120, individual objectivity. Further, by communicating these requirements to the board and senior management, the chief audit executive will help ensure that the board and senior management understand the criticality of independence and objectivity for an effective internal audit activity. Generally, the board and senior management will want to discuss how and to whom impairments are disclosed depending on the nature and potential impact of the impairment. To fully understand and appreciate independence and objectivity, it is important that the internal auditors consider the perspective of their various stakeholders and the conditions that could be perceived as undermining or appearing to undermine the independence or objectivity. Often the chief audit executive will develop an internal audit policy, manual or handbook that includes a discussion of organizational independence and internal auditors objectivity and the nature of impairment and how the internal auditors should handle potential impairments. So, we have discussed this that to effectively manage independence and objectivity, including impairment, many chief audit executives have an internal audit policy manual or handbook that describes the related expectations and requirements. In addition to defining the independence and objectivity, such a manual may identify the specific related standards, describe the types of the situations that could create or appear to create impairments, and specify the expected actions the internal auditor should undertake if faced with a potential impairment. Impairment situations generally include self-interest, self-review, familiarity, bias, or undue influence. These situations can lead to personal conflict of interest, scope limitations, resource limitations, or restriction on access to records, personnel, or properties. So, let us discuss and have a look on some of the examples of the organizational independence impairments. And also these can also undermine the internal auditor's objectivity. The chief audit executive has broader functional responsibility. This is first example. So, now this broader functional responsibility means that it is broader than the internal audit scope, and executes the chief auditor executes an audit of a functional area that is also under the chief audit executive's oversight. Another example can be the chief audit executive supervisor has a broader responsibility than internal audit, and the chief audit executive executes an audit within his or her supervisor's functional responsibility. And there can be a possibility of that chief of audit executive does not have a direct communication or interaction with the board, or the budget for internal audit activity is reduced to the point that internal audit cannot fulfill its responsibilities as outlined in the charter. We may refer to standard 2020, which is about the communication and approval, which provides further guidance on communicating the impact of resource limitations. Now, let us have a look at some of the examples of objectivity impairments. An internal auditor audits an area in which he or she recently worked, such as when an employee transfers to internal audit from a different functional area. We discussed this earlier in the video. And then he is assigned to an audit or to the audit of that function. So, standard 1130, the assurance A1, which we discussed before, specifically address this situation. Another example can be an internal auditor audits an area where a relative or a close friend or family member is employed. An internal auditor assumes without evidence that an area being audited has effectively mitigated all the risks, and so his decision is solely based on a prior positive audit or personal experience. For example, a lack of professionalism, this is a good example of professional skepticism is missing here, or lacking in this assumption. And another example can be an internal auditor modifies the planned approach or results based on undue influence of another person. Often someone senior to the internal auditor and without any appropriate justification. This can happen to when some junior level auditors are posted to some very important assignments, and under pressure they are, or maybe somehow some of the seniors who have some bad intentions, they guide them in a way that they change their planned approach. So, it can have like these are some of the areas where, that is why junior auditors, I always want them to understand the standards very well, because when they are applying, a lot of things happen through them which they are not aware of, and they do it. So, what should be the disclosure approach of chief audit executive for impairment? Often the internal audit policy manual describes the appropriate actions for an internal auditor to take should he or she become aware of or concerned about such impairments. Typically, the first step is to discuss the concern with an internal audit manager or the chief audit executive. This is to determine whether the situation is truly an impairment and how best to proceed. Both the nature of the impairment and the board or senior management expectations will determine the appropriate parties to be notified of the impairment and the ideal communication approach. So, the chief audit executive is personally involved in determining the best disclosure approach. For example, when the chief audit executive believes the impairment is not real, but recognizes there could be a perception of impairment, the chief audit executive may choose to discuss the concern in engagement planning meetings with the operating management. Document the discussion, such as in an audit planning memo, and explain why the concern is without merit. Such a disclosure may also be appropriate for a final engagement report. When the chief audit executive believes the impairment is real and is affecting the ability of the internal audit to perform its duties independently and objectively, the chief audit executive is likely to discuss the impairment with the board and senior management and seek their support to resolve the situation. When an impairment comes to light after an audit has been executed and it impacts the reliability or perceived reliability of the engagement results, the chief audit executive will discuss it with operating and senior management as well as the board. We may refer to standard 2421, which is about errors and omissions, which states that if a final communication contains a significant error or omission, the chief audit executive must communicate corrected information to all parties who received the original communication. So, there can be multiple documents that may demonstrate conformance with the standards, including an internal audit policy manual that includes policies on independence, objectivity, addressing conflicts of interest, and the nature of impairments and how to communicate them. The other documents may be the board meeting minutes if impairments to independence or objectivity were discussed with the board, memos to the files or the report and the reports that contain such disclosures. So, concluding this, what we learned today is the impairment to independence or objectivity and what is its disclosure requirement, to determine to whom to disclose the impairment and to consider the nature of the impairment, the expectations to the senior management board, and what is the requirement in the internal audit charter. We understood the independence and objectivity in rather more detail, and we considered the impact of stakeholders' expectations and the conditions of the impairment. We understood impairment situations, and also we learned that what the chief audit executive's disclosure approach should be in this. Thank you so much for watching my videos. Keep liking and subscribe my channel so that you can get more information, and there are more exciting videos coming, not only limited to internal audit but on other areas as well. Thank you so much.